Okay, for another QA, people have asked, as I mentioned playing D&D, what was my class? Now, when I played regular D&D, back when races and classes were the same thing, like you could play a halfling, and you weren't a halfling rogue, you were just a halfling. I was an elf. Elf at the time was essentially a fighter mage hybrid, and it was pretty awesome. Yes, it took a tremendous amount of experience once you go to the next level, and you were capped. I want to say they were capped at either 9 or 11. They had a really, really bizarre system where humans could pick any class they wanted to get to level 20. If you picked a dwarf, you were pretty much a fighter. A ranger, pretty much, a halfling, pretty much a rogue. And if you went elf, you were a fighter mage. So they truncated the amount of experience levels you could get because you essentially were a dual class. That was pretty sweet. It allowed you the ability to be pretty good with swords, cast spells. Around the time they had kits, well, this actually predates kits for the most part, but you do things like blade singers, which was pretty nice. I enjoyed that. And then for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, you had to actually pick, what direction you wanted to go. I predominantly still went elf as my race, and I was either fighter mage or a bard. I liked bards at the time of first Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. You still had different experience levels, and bard rogue was like 1,250. So you normally got to be about level. You're normally 1 to 2 levels ahead of the rest of your party, which was nice. Bard, you had some thief skills, but not really any to take the place of the thief. And you had some healing spells and some arcane spells, which was nice. Again, I absolutely loved playing as elves. So at that time, I actually had, the brownish leather elf's handbook, and to go along with that, I normally also had the bard handbook, the mage book. These were the brown leatherette ones. And I also owned all 4 of the magical compendiums, which was pretty sweet. And then as second came away to player's options. Player's options, pretty much you had a basic style that you wanted to play. You're like, I will go with wizard. You had X number of points to spend on other things, where most people I knew would play a wizard, because you could do things like, well, I can only cast spells when I've got my talisman, which could be a ring or an amulet or anything. And you use that for more character build points, which you then use to hardcore specialize in one thing. So most of my friends were pretty much evocation specialized heavy armored mages. So they effectively were cannons. One of the games at the time actually allowed us to do kits, prestige classes, and you started out at 1d2 plus 1 for your level, which was nice. Because you could do a racial kit, and then you also could do a character kit. Well, now all of a sudden you could be a bard that was a blade dancer. There's a style of bard where you lost the musical abilities, but you gained a lot more fighting abilities. And I was like, all right, I will totally go that way. Sure, I lose the ability to play music and to have that sort of impact, but I have a greater THAC0. That was 2-hit armor class 0. Back when the way they used to do it is your armor class, I want to say for advanced, it was 10, and everything you did made it go lower. So then if your THAC0 was 5, well then you needed to roll a 5 or higher, did an armor class of 0. If the armor class was at minus 5, you then essentially took the negative of that. So if you hit armor class 0, you had a 5, and your opponent had an AC of 10, 15 or higher. Well, actually, no. If they had an AC of 10, you subtracted it, so a 1 or higher would do it. If they had a minus 5, and your THAC0 was 5, you had to do a 10. So they actually threw in algebra. I just thought I made a mistake trying to do it off the top of my head. That's the way it was done. Of course, later iterations, they actually went with your armor class is everything added together, your attack is just a bonus. No more, well, my armor class is minus 15. They're like, whoa, that's insane. Because your THAC0 scores were much on the lower side. So I really enjoyed the second player's options. It was nice, especially if you did a spellcaster. If you wanted to do, I like also the Defiler too, because one of the systems you actually did was you get spell points, which was one of the most bizarre, convoluted ways of doing spell points. Now, if you did a Defiler, you pretty much absorbed the energy of the area around you to cast magic. They had another version, which was like it's a Conserver? The exact opposite of it. These were Tome of Magic ones. And you could harness the energy around you, but you did it lightly. You didn't damage anything. As a Defiler, if you could walk in there and be like, I need to cast a fireball on a set life out of this tree, and pretty much salt the earth that I'm walking on to cast magic. That was actually pretty cool. By the time 2nd edition and Player's Option began to kind of fall by the wayside, 3rd edition popped up. I did do some 3rd edition, which had a lot more streamlined way of doing it. Again, I probably owned way too many when it came to books related to elves, books related to different styles of magic. I never actually got into the Eberron location, which is weird because now I play DDO, which is set in Eberron. And then that was the time of the real jump in D20, where everything became D20. If you wanted to take a Jedi Knight, you could transfer this D20 system worked relatively the same. You take a Jedi Knight and throw them in Dungeons and Dragons, and vice versa. So then a group that I was playing with, they decided that everything in a D20 book was fair game, regardless of what it was that you were doing. Which made for some absolutely crazy, bizarre teams. Because now all of a sudden it's like, okay, so you are playing a Gungan, who is a Force Adept, yeah? So you use a staff that you enhance with the Force to make it stronger than any known element, And you're a Druid, yeah. Okay. And even though we're set in medieval times, you have a blaster. Yeah. Okay. Okay. You are a Sith. Okay, so you have a double-bladed lightsaber, but you're a half-drow. Yeah. Okay. Different. Now, if there's probably being elf or half-elf, but did half-elf I normally did half-drow. Something about that nice combination of, okay, I'm going to have like a cloudy purplish skin with either grayish, whitish hair. And there we go. So again, a bard? Totally a bard. Blade dancer? Totally blade dancer. So what crazy thing? I'm like, alright, my character's also going to pretty much be clad entirely in black, but I want to wear a silver skull face mask. Okay? And you're going to run with dual scourges. So you're going to be a half-drow, pretty much in a studded leather armor that's jet black cloak, with a purple inlay, bright, shiny silver skull full head mask, wielding scourges. Yep. Because thematically, it's a much more fun character to play. Now, we used to also do things like Tomb of Horrors, where the 4 of us were each playing 3 different characters. It was more difficult because I actually couldn't just pick a specific character. I was like, well, we're going to need a balanced party. Because if we weren't forced for a balanced party, everybody would have just been like, okay, so we're all fighter mages, we're all arcane casters. So I would occasionally have to be forced to play a cleric. I hated playing cleric pen and paper. Pen and paper clerics were horrible. Horrible. Paladin was okay. Paladin was workable. Cleric was a no. Cleric was a no. If I had to play a wizard, normally my wizards also were throwers. Because it was easier to say, okay, well my wizard gets a couple of spells at the lower levels, but I'm also throwing knives. So why do you throw knives, not daggers? Well, that time you could throw 3 knives in a turn. So they're like, wait, so yes, my character is going to walk into an area. I'm going to cast some of my magic. When the magic is done, I'm going to be hucking daggers left and right. I'm hucking knives left and right. Oh, okay. So most DMs were like, okay, so your character is an elf that's carrying 50 daggers. Yep. And 50 knives. Yep. So then I could throw the knives when things were dead, pull the knives back out, clean them off, ready to go. And then occasionally in 3rd edition, if I was given the ability, I joined in a group that had been playing for a while, and the DM was like, well, you know, they're all like level 7 and 8 characters. He said, I will give you a level, I think it was, I think I had like a 1d2 plus 6. And he was like, you know, you flip a coin, you know, the level 7 or 6 character. Leave 7 or 8 characters. I'm like, all right. I'm like, anything that I can't choose. And he was like, no, go ahead, go nuts. All right. So I ended up going because he wanted some characters that were not lawful good. Everyone was lawful good, lawful neutral, or neutral good. So I got to play a half-drow sorcerer monk who I did the Servitor of Shar route. So I actually was a shadow adept. And he went, okay, so you're going to be a shadow adept. Sorcerer monk. Yeah. Okay. He also allowed kits as well. He allowed the older kits, so he didn't use prestige classes. And I was like, to make it better, yeah, I'm gonna go Wujin. And he was like, okay. Yep. It's like, I'm not allowed to have weapons, hence why picking the monk. Then I actually got to use, you know, fists and the spells. So I don't require any sort of amulets or talismans to cast magic. But I wasn't allowed to use weapons. And he was like, okay. He's like, you can use the basic weapons here. You can throw rocks and stuff like that in case you need to hit triggers. So I got to be the one character who predominantly had different sorts of shadowing spells and magical spells of that nature. Occasionally spells that made force fields, things like that. And that was actually kind of fun. But again, I was the only character who had a severely dark bend. Normally, you know, if I was picking an elf, if I wanted to do elf and I wanted to go more spellcaster, because I still did, you know, fighter mages, but no, I would do bards for a long time. You know, if I wanted to do more of the wizard side of things, you know, gray elves, sun elves, I tried to go with the elves that had bonuses to intelligence. If I wanted to just do a regular, good old-fashioned elf, any of them worked well enough for what I was doing. I did occasionally do the Sylvan elves. I wanted to do a really more powerful, physical sword wielder. One time I was allowed to use the Aphelial elf, which one with wings, which was different because you're the character who has wings and you wield a sword, and I kind of went just closer to a generic blade singer. So I had a very small amount of wizard levels and a lot of fighter levels to then go into the prestige class for blade singer, which is kind of neat. One of the DMs that I did, I actually did this online through Yahoo groups. So you pretty much just read text from your DM, and you had to type in the different things for your roles and all that. He had the thing that anything you wanted to do was fair game. However, everyone had an arch nemesis who, if you wanted something that was crazy, he would do the same thing. So I actually made the mistake of, again, going Bladesinger Prestige class. And then I actually bounced back between Bladesinger and Spellsword. So here I've got a character who's dual wielding those longswords. So I've got this tremendous amount of fighter skill, a decent amount of wizard skill, and I can magically imbue my swords. So then, of course, when he's like, all right, so you're dual wielding swords. Yeah. Okay. And then it came to the person that he was going to be my nemesis. He actually rolled up. I didn't know much about Eberron, so he actually picked a character that's closer to a Blade Forged, who actually was more resistant to slashing weapons. So here I am, entirely geared towards slashing, taking on a Blade Forged Ranger who was specifically geared and designed for hunting elves. And he had, I think it was the Juggernaut Prestige class and another one. And he was tough to fight. For a while when I got the DM, I was very big into creating, this is around the time of, well, it's called Heroes Quest at the time, that the Quest for Glory series. They would do a bulletin board where I was like, here's some local questing things. So I did like the bulletin board style, which also was kind of taken from Final Fantasy Tactics, where I would have a list of like random things that they could do. That if they finished a quest, here's something that's short, like half an hour, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Little things to throw together here and there. And occasionally I would take old characters I still had access to. I'd be like, we're gonna, you're gonna face off against one of my older characters, effectively. Because way back when I was still in high school, I had a DM that decided that whatever you had for skill points, you had to put towards everything. So now all of a sudden, if you pick a rogue got pretty much 8 times your initial intelligence bonus in skill points. And I was like, well, sweet. I'm going to actually make a rogue with a really high intelligence score. Because I was able to go drow with no level impact. Have stupid high intelligence. Get all of those skills. And then I got to use those things to buy extra feats and to buy the ability to cast magic. And I was like, nice. I was like, I'm going to go Necromancer. He's like, so you're a rogue who can cast Necromancer spells? Like, yep. My character effectively will be a grave robber. Oh. And you're going like, I will go with chaotic good. What? And I was like, when it comes to the society, I don't care about your rules, but I do have a good moral compass. So if there to be somebody who either got away with a crime and then was later died of natural causes, I would resurrect them as a zombie to have them that kind of do the penance for what they didn't actually do. So they kind of like more of an eternal sort of punishment. So I'd occasionally work that character as like, oh, there's a grave robber. Talk to the families of the graves being robbed, and then essentially defeat the undead and put them back into their coffins. That was always fun, because that allowed you to take a small amount of local lore and then build a small army that based on those characters. And then I got to level adjust the character that I had from previous time. So it was also always an elf or a half drow or a drow. I picked those brown because in the beginning they were the most powerful class. And when you played pen and paper, undead were scary. Level drains were horrible. If you had the level drain, you could spend months building your character back up. It didn't wear away in a few minutes. Dying was horrible. The enemies that could have you age were ridiculous. And it was like, you've been hit, okay? You aged 10 years. How's it do to my human fighter? Alright, well, you're now in middle age. You now get negatives to your dexterity, your strength, your constitution. You gain bonuses to intelligence, wisdom. When you're an elf, it's like you age 10 years. Pfft, that's nothing for an elf. My max life is what? 1,100 years? I'm like 625? Pfft, got this. I'm not going to hit middle age for about another 7-8 hits. And then when it came to doing that for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, I had so much knowledge and background playing them, and I liked them. I knew what to expect. Kept on going with it. And then transitioning from the fighter mage to still doing fighter mages or doing mages to working that into the bard, which can only be like a thief mage, was a pretty easy transition. And then with 3rd edition that came out, and it was like, well, I like sorcerer. This version of monk is great because D&D version of monk was really powerful, but you always had to beat another character to gain level ups towards the end. And I was like, nice. I know the Servitor of Sharrot to Shadow Adept. That was pretty sick. Because there are a lot of shadow spells in the different compendium tomes that just made it amazing. And I have a shadow cat. Let me do certain things. Okay. I will then turn it into a familiar, so I'll have a constant shadow cat to go along with me. Envelop myself in shadow. I will attack you with shadow. Be like, and here's an Umbral Hulk. Yes, that's a giant shadow creature attacking you. Go to my shadow cats. And shadow gargoyles. Or if we went a different route entirely, you know, they had a different sort of, if you specialize in force, there are different sort of force fields you could do, like the force umbrella. Once again, rain doesn't hit you or falling boulders. As well as weapons. The one was a dagger that always did flanking damage. It would flank and it would attack. If you combine that with the whirling blades, which allowed you to attack with weapons of force, it was pretty sweet. At least up until the time when someone finally in my party actually got a moon sword, which was a hilt that produced an energy sword. So of course was the Dungeons & Dragons version of lightsaber, which was cool until people started actually bringing in Jedi and Ninja Turtles and superheroes. And for a while, we started throwing other characters. So it's like, you know what your character can do? Alright, Ryu is going to Shiku Hadouken. Because as he fought, he got more and more super meter. It's like, okay, so he's going to jump and Shiku Hadouken the dragon. Alright. What's Cloud going to do? And everyone else had these really powerful characters. I'm like, alright, I'm like, okay, some like, okay, so we have Raphael, Ken, Ryu, you're a Kuma, yeah. You're playing Iori Yugami, yeah. And a young version of Goku, Jedi, yeah. Force Adept Druid, yeah. And you're Bard. Oh. We have a second character. Shadow Adept Sorcerer Monk. Drow. Alright, so you're... So what you have to have for a mount? Your halfling's riding a Wookiee. Yeah. Got a freaking halfling with a Wookiee mount. Alright. Okay. No one wanted to go Night Sister? Just to... Like, I'm trying to picture this party going anywhere. How do people react to Gungans? You've got a metal hand. We're combining way too many things. What no one wants to be like, and we jump into the TARDIS, and we appear in the villain's lair. Doesn't matter because we're cloaked. Okay. Set phasers to stun. set lightsabers to wound. Set your billy clubs to twirl. I mean, it was just in college. It got really crazy really quickly. But then all of a sudden, the video game craze really picked up, and everyone's played MMOs from that point on.